Okay, welcome everybody. This is our, I'm not even sure, fourth meeting perhaps of the Windham County Genealogical Interest Group, and glad everybody could make it. We wouldn't have, we might have had a weather cancellation if we were meeting physically in one of the libraries, but so Zoom has helped us with that. Um, just raining here in Brattleboro. Bill Clark says it's snowing up in Windham. How are things up your way?
Rain.
Rain. It probably will hopefully stay that way for a while. So
It's pouring rain here.
I just got to admit one more person here. So before,
It's supposed to snow tomorrow.
yeah, I think we're going to get some flurries here later on. So we have I made a little poll for people since we're going to be talking about online genealogy software as well as Find a Grave today. In fact, I'll show you what our agenda is going to be. So if you would like to introduce yourselves, you can do that in the chat box and just say what your genealogical interest is. The chat box, if you're using a desktop or laptop, should be at the bottom of your screen. I'm not sure exactly, it hides in other, so if you're using a phone or an iPad or other tablet, it's there somewhere, but you might have to look for it. And you can click on that and type, type anything you would like to introduce yourself, make it short. Then we'll start off with Bill Clark, who will talk about TNG software, which is online genealogy software for creating a family tree. We'll do that for a little bit and have some time for questions, and then we'll move on to Find a Grave with Wayne. And then we'll just open it up for discussions and any genealogical questions you might have. And then we can talk about any topics of your interest in the next meeting and set up a date. So it'll probably be sometime in January or February, I guess. Let's see here. I have some more people coming in. I'm going to put up this little poll and just take a few seconds to answer it. Nothing very hard, just a couple of yes/no questions. And here we go. Everybody see that poll? If you don't see it, just raise your hand.
Sec-
Hello, David.
Hello.
We're doing a poll right now, so if you want to take a few seconds.
Yeah, I was online with my name in the box. I don't have
Oh.
the camera on my
Okay.
on my computer, so I used the
Oh,
camera on the phone.
right. That's right. Remember that now. Yeah. I'll just give people a few more seconds and then we'll look at the results.
If some people are having trouble with the survey, you need to scroll down to get to the submit button.
Good point, Wayne, thanks. Okay, we have a pretty good, we have 88% of people voting. That's better than any election I've seen, so let's, I'll go ahead and end the poll. And we'll share the results here. So first question, do you keep your family tree on your computer with a genealogy program? We have 82% responding, 18 do, 14 no. Do you keep your family tree in an online service only? So 7 do and 15 don't. Do you keep your family tree both online and on your computer? 14 said yes, 8 said no. So seems to be a little lopsided on all those. And have you used Find a Grave? And get 100% of participants. So that's something that everyone is familiar with. So that's good. And Wayne will give us some more tips on that today. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. And a couple of people are coming in, so let me let them in. Okay, so why don't we get on with our program? It might be handy if people will just mute yourself. Go ahead and just hit the mute button, so that in case there's any background noise, it won't disrupt anybody, and we can then move on. So I'm just going to turn the show over to Bill Clark, who's going to talk about TNG software.
Thanks, Jerry. So thanks for the guidance in the beginning of trying to share the information. So welcome everybody to today's meeting, and I thought I would start off with an introduction. I've been at this genealogical quest for many moons, starting back in the 80s, actually, with my father while he was still alive. And I knew that there was a lot of information that had been researched about my mother's side of the family, but my father didn't seem to know very much about the family history. And so I began asking questions and visiting LDS libraries and reading census material, and made many discoveries. I'm still making discoveries. It's an eternal quest. And so that's when I got the genealogy bug. And just a little bit about myself. We moved up into the beautiful state of Vermont in 1996. Before that, I was teaching math and computers in Pennsylvania. And I was at the Vermont Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing in Brattleboro for close to 20 years, managing their network and technology. So it's been a very interesting journey here in Vermont. We decided, my sister and my brother and I decided it would be a good idea to make the research that we had done public, some sort of a public forum. And we spent some time looking at different platforms, and we thought the TNG, the next generation, as it's called, was the nicest, best platform. So I went ahead and made the call, and from there it's just been growing ever since. My brother had the information already in a GEDCOM. He had close to maybe 2,500 or 3,000 entries. So it made it very easy for me to import that into the software. So I'm going to go to the TNG website, and can everybody see that? I'm hoping that everybody can see that. So I'm just going to go on here. They're up to version 13. We started with version 11. The last meeting that we had was there was a technical glitch with our website, and that was because of the new platform that had come out did not support. I had an outdated version of PHP, which created a security risk, so that software didn't work. So we had to put a new cog in the machine, so to speak, and we've upgraded to version 13, and it works like a champ. I'm going to spend just a little time on their website, just so you can see it's very, very well done. This man, Darren Lithgow, is extremely helpful. He returns my emails certainly within 24 hours, usually less than that. And I've just been really pleased with the support and the features of this platform. The website itself has got more than enough for you to explore all the different features and samples that they have. Coming down here, you'll see some of the key features of the platform, which really attracted us to this. Obviously, GEDCOM, import, export, it's pretty much dead on arrival if you can't have that portability feature. Searching, obviously, charts. The charts and reporting, I'll give you a little demonstration of that a little later. Very easy to navigate. Lists and custom template designs, I think, were one feature that really made it very attractive. It's not one size fits all. You can customize it quite a bit. There are various levels of security. I haven't really gotten into that. I tried to get my brother to agree to be a co-administrator, and it's now we're going to give you the opportunity to do all of that. Obviously, uploading photos and histories, very simple. Administration, I'll be giving you a quick demo of that. Backup and restore, very easily done. You can host multiple trees. They don't really recommend that. They have something called, although you can, as long as there's no overlap in the trees, you could host multiple trees. They have a feature here called branches, which is I haven't really explored yet, but it does support multiple trees. Great support. It's a wonderful community. And then they go to highlight the latest changes here. If you're familiar with WordPress, it also supports WordPress. I have some experience with WordPress, actually quite a bit of experience with WordPress. And I was initially thinking of doing this on a WordPress platform, but then I found it was just as easy to let them just do the hosting myself, use their engine. Now, the question comes up, do you really want to roll your own website? Go out, find a hosting provider, collect all the data, upload the data, manage the HTML, do the table backups, and so on. You can do all that yourself, or you can simply have the third party do it. And they recommend a company called Simply Hosting, which is, it's more than reasonable, $5 a month. It's even less if you pay annually. And they have a relationship with the developer of TNG. So if you were to go to the Simply Hosting website, you see here they actually have different hosting platforms, or different hosting offers for depending on what kind of traffic you have. And they also have you can have a resale. They have reseller hosting and so on. I use I do not use Simply Hosting. I was already currently using a hosting company called Bluehost. They're very good. There are many different hosting companies out there, but again, this specifically is designed for. They have carved out a space specifically for the TNG community. And while I'm at that, I will just quickly show you here. This is my support for support before I actually go to our family site. I'll show you there is a great community of support for TNG specifically. And I've joined this, and this is my little profile up here. This is one of my ancestors, C. Ross Smith, that fought in the Civil War. I found a nice photograph of him, so I thought might be a nice profile picture. But I mean, within the community, there are separate forums. You can see questions and answers, creating reports, GEDCOMs and software installation, configuration, code discussion, templates. They have a whole wiki section of TNG. Then they have a highlight different member web pages. If you're just interested in the genealogy, they have a whole section that talks about just different levels of genealogical research, and then some professional items as well. So that's really in a nutshell, without diving in completely. Let's see if I can get back here. All right, am I back on? I guess I'm back there, right? Okay, so now let me get to the family history website. All right, so this is the website that we put together using the TNG platform. With any website, as you all know, or you all may know, they pretty much any website is always a work in progress. There's really, it's always a moving target, making tweaks, uploading different photographs and so on. Some modifications, corrections. This is one of the templates. This is template number 12. They have over a dozen different templates. I chose this. It's pretty easy to manage. I try not to keep too much information on here, but I found out that I'm a little heavy on the Clark side as far as links and so on, which stands to reason because a lot of the Hart side, my mother's side, has already been done. I mean, that's obviously there are whole different branches that come along, but basically here are your basic navigation at the very top. So anyone coming here could, well, let's just start with the find here. If we were saying someone from the outside were to land on this website, if they were to go to surnames, let's just go to the T's here, and let's try Tupper, the Tupper family. All right, so then we've got all the Tuppers here. Some of you in New England, you may have a Tupper branch, but what I find one feature I really like about this is this heat map. There's a lot of good support for integrates with Google Maps, and you'll see here that the Tuppers came from England, but now if I zoom in here in New England, all right, you'll see now you've got pretty much a snapshot of what Tuppers, at least as far as this website is concerned, where they came from. These aren't the Tuppers, say, from Mississippi or Missouri or California. So in a snapshot, I think you get a much better sense for is this the tougher line that I'm interested in? So if I go back here, go back home. Now I put some pictures up here. By the way, those of you from Pennsylvania, this is the Rockville Bridge, which is just north of Harrisburg. And my father's father, my grandfather, worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad for 42 years. And my father had a Pennsylvania Railroad calendar in his office and a picture of the Rockville Bridge. He told me that this bridge is the longest stone arch bridge in the world. Who would have thought so? So anyway, I thought that would be a nice testament. I think down here I'm going to put some Pennsylvania Railroad photograph or some connection with the Pennsylvania Railroad. So basic navigation. Again, I put some links here just to make it easy for third parties, but also I think there's some self-interest here for me to try to have some quick navigation so that when I hit the landing page, I can quickly go to, say, there's a link here for the settlement in Bucks County of the Hart family. So what I did is I simply made a quick link to that, put that on the landing page, and here we are in Google Books, and there's the mention of Samuel Hart and his family. So if we go back here, this was the only piece of genealogical information that we had. We all had a copy of what was called the Record of the Hart Family of Philadelphia. And when I started researching this, I found out that someone, I don't know who, but someone had digitized this book that my grandfather had finished back in 1920. And so now we have a digital version of the history of the Hart family, which I thought was fabulous. And not only that, I thought it was even more fabulous that we could put that on the website. So that's a big time saver. Over here, I have a couple links from the Clark side. Making of a Township, that's a great example of a book that you can just simply link right to the Internet Archive. And here's the book, The Making of a Township. It's Fairmount Township. I found out that a branch of the Clark family had migrated in the 1800s, early 1800s, to Fairmount Township at Grant County, Indiana. So that's my latest project, is researching that line. So again, I'm putting these links in here so that I can very easily move around. All right, so now let's get back here. Hang on, we're gonna go back here. Hang on, I know we can do this. Here we are. If any one of you, before I go into the, how much time do I have? I think I've got about, I guess about 10 minutes left, so that's fine. I'm going to just very quickly show you this website here. Those of you who ever do any research in Bradford County or the Tri-County area in northern Pennsylvania, Tioga, Bradford, this is one of the most incredible sites. JoyceTice.com. She's been at this. She's got over 18,000 pages of resource materials and tools for Tioga and Bradford County and Chemung County in New York. It turns out I discovered this website years ago when I found out that the Clarks had migrated from Ashford, Connecticut to northern Pennsylvania in the late 1700s. And it's been quite a journey researching them and picking up information, but they've got just an amazing amount of links and research materials. So if you're doing any research in northern Pennsylvania or the southern tier of New York, I recommend this this site very, very much. So again, I put that on the main website just as a tool for navigating. All right, very quickly, I'm going to go into the admin thing. I'm not going to touch too much on the nuts and bolts, but I want to just kind of show you what it looks like. So right now I'm just logged in as a regular garden variety user. I put this down there just as a just to make my life easier so that I can go in and do some administration. So logging into the platform, I come down here, and these are the features that you get. And obviously a lot of moving parts, and this is just an introductory session here. We're certainly happy to, in later sessions, we can drill down. I can show you a little bit more about the features here. But I did want to just show you one thing here for utilities. It's always a concern about backing up. So backing up tables and your data. So it's a very simple process, selecting all, and then what do you want to do with it? I want to back up, and I say go. And then at the end of that process, it'll come back and say, this successfully backed up. So in under a minute, I've got, I don't know how much data, maybe a gig of data has been backed up. It doesn't do a full backup, it does an incremental backup. So it's doing it from the last backup. So it's basically backing up anything that has changed since the last backup. So it's very efficient that way. All right, so that was one little feature there. The other, make that a little easier. The other thing I'm going to show you very quickly is this setup. Now in setup, this is where you choose different templates and chart settings and so on. In template settings, as the admin, this is where I can go in and change the text. So this is actually where the rubber meets the road. So it's format 12. This is the welcome paragraph, and there's some HTML in here. And again, if you're not competent with HTML or fully familiar with that, this is obviously, this may not be the platform for you. For example, this is the link to at the landing page to the Bradford County history site. I can cancel out of that. Obviously, I'm not going to change any of this. Just give you an idea of that, kind of some nuts and bolts here. There's one feature that I will show you, another thing, and that is the charts. Now, let's take an individual here. Let's take General Benjamin Tupper, who, by the way, as this page is loading, you must read the book called The Pioneers. It is just fabulous. About the settlement of Ohio, the state of Ohio, basically. Very, very interesting. And so when I was reading it, I noticed mention of General Benjamin Tupper, and sure enough, it's the same Tupper family I've been researching for the last 5 years or so. And so just to give you an idea, that's, one historical link. Hang on, I think I hit the wrong button there. Here's this Find a Grave page. And I'm really looking forward to Wayne's presentation on the Find a Grave, because I will tell you, there's been an absolute cornucopia of information as far as links and spouses, families, dates. Many people put up obituaries on Find a Grave. I find that very helpful. Photographs and so on. So there he is, General Benjamin Tupper, who is a distant relative. So anyway, suppose we wanted to go back and see his descendants. All right, so General Benjamin Tupper, well, who's descendant? Well, I don't have very much information on him. So let's go back here. Let's actually go, let me go back here. Let's say it with the ancestors instead of the descendants. Oh, that's a little better, right? All right, so we don't have very much on him, but there are different ways of looking at it. So for example, I like this particular way of, so there's General Tupper, and these are all, I mean, we can make it much more complicated. We can add more generations if we want. Say we want to add 5 generations. So that expands it. So I can make it as simple as complex. So then obviously all of these names are hyperlinked. So William Swift, if we wanted to take a look at William Swift, we could get his information and so on. So feel like I'm really zipping through this. I'm really sorry, but there are so many different ways to display the information. Now, for example, let's take a look at Ebenezer Clark, Harry S. Clark's. Oh yes, and the gentleman on the landing page, Harry S. Clark, I found a newspaper article about him, and it said, you'd all get a kick out of this, it said, in his 82nd year, he can walk 20 miles in a day without the aid of whiskey or tobacco. So I thought that was pretty interesting. All right, so now for Descendants, for Ebenezer, all right, so we'll look at it this way. And again, all these names are hyperlinked so that we can zoom into any one of the individual records. I think this is pretty much of a standard item, but you can also do you can also change the way it's displayed here. So that maybe a little less information, you're just interested, again, and all the names are hyperlinked. Your vertical display, so you could do that. You're all familiar with how that works. So there are a lot of different ways of looking at this. And then if you wanted to send this as a PDF, you could generate, I'm getting error because I haven't updated to font, but you can generate, it does have a built-in PDF generator. You can also generate a GEDCOM. So if someone else were descended from Ebenezer, say they're in California and they've got their branch, their tree, we could certainly generate a GEDCOM from this particular individual. We can take it as many ancestors as we want, and we could build a GEDCOM and then send that to the other researcher. So there are a lot of different ways of representing the data. There are, let's see, I'm trying to think about the other thing, which, and obviously there are unlimited amount of notes. You can copy and paste all the notes that you want into the individual record. And of course, you can put your sources in here as well. So this makes it very, very easy for people to drill in as much as they want to an individual. But I'm very interested in this guy, Ebenezer P. Clark. His father, Samuel, unfortunately died in a hunting accident in the early 1800s. His neighbor was out hunting. He was clearing a road and his neighbor thought he was a deer. He got shot, age 55. So anyway, and then we've got the maps we can drill in with Google Maps and so on. These are the highlights here. You can individually add records. I think I'm trying to do too many things here. All right, so I'm going to go home here. And I want to show one last feature here before. All right, so I'm going to try. All right, so let's see if there are any Benedicts in here. Part of my ancestry deals with the Lathrop family, who I was reading about, and they said that I knew they came from Norwich, Connecticut, back to Reverend John Lathrop from I think 1660 or whenever he came over. Anyway, I was then found out that General Benedict Arnold's grandmother was a Lathrop. So I thought, oh, this is not possible. Are you kidding? And I remember somebody telling me that you research your family tree until you find a member hanging from a tree. Well, here we are. So there's General Benedict Arnold. Oh my goodness gracious. So that was a very interesting journey, researching Benedict Arnold. I also just recently finished the Nathaniel Philbrook book, very good. And he does not apologize for Benedict Arnold whatsoever. But I thought, okay, how about this relationship feature here? This is the last feature I want to show. All right, so General Benedict Arnold. All right, so let's see what his relationship is, if he really is related. And I'm going to put my father in here. My father served in the Second World War. He would have been mortified if he'd found out that there was a connection. All right, let's calculate what the relationship is between, oh, there is a relationship. Goes back to Samuel Lathrop. And again, some of you in the audience may recognize these names. I mean, Lathrop is a very, very famous New England name I've discovered. The Lathrop connection comes through this guy, Harry S. Clark. He married Clarissa Lathrop. There's Arnold. Let's see what the relationship is. There's my grandfather. There's my father. Benedict Arnold is the third cousin 5 times removed of John Cap Clark. So there we go. So that makes this hobby a lot of fun, I think. I think if you go back far enough, you can find a common ancestor, and there are probably a lot more of these connections that can be made. But anyway, so we have some infamous connections there. And then I'm looking at the clock here, and I'm saying 10:40. So I think I've hit my 30 minutes. If I can just do one more website, I will just leave you with this. I don't know how familiar you are with this site here. This is a lot of fun. Famouskin.com. You can get into all sorts of different different individuals and you know what's new, and they're always adding names and so on. I'm assuming that this is reasonably accurate, but again, finding that common ancestor, this is where I discovered that Ulysses S. Grant actually is connected to Benedict Arnold through a common ancestor through those Lathrops. So, you know, if we went to Benedict Arnold, who's the famous kin of Benedict Arnold, here are some of the people that are related to Benedict Arnold: Charlemagne, Samuel Huntington, William Howard Taft, and then the Bush family. The Bush family, there's Ulysses S. Grant. So we have 3 presidents, well, 4, I guess if you include Taft, connected to General Arnold. Okay, well, I think on that note, that's it for me. And I think I'll stop the share now and ask anyone if they have any questions.
Bill, that was really, really great. Thank you so much for giving us that thumbnail overview. I think maybe the best way to maybe handle the questions is to raise your hand in the, do you know, guys, you know where that is at the bottom of your screen there? You can, yeah, we can do it physically too. There is a way to raise your hand as well from the bottom of the screen. But,
Jerry, we have some in the chat too.
yeah, when you have questions in the chat, you're right. While we start with those questions, and you can also just type them in the chat if that's easier. That would be helpful as well. We have a question from Jennifer. How easy is it to add additional people into the tree?
It's a good question. It's actually, that was something I was thinking of demonstrating in the admin section. It's actually very easy. Creating a new record in the TNG is very easy. And they walk you through this on the website. I'm happy to demonstrate it, but it's very easy. It's from the from the updating a record, there's a tab there that says add child, add spouse.
You-
It's very easy.
Okay. Here's another question from James Howard. Are the research notes public or private?
Good question. Those research notes were actually part of the GEDCOM that my brother sent over, which, oh, I'm sorry, the actual research notes, no, they're public. Those are public.
Okay. Can you make them private if someone
You
wanted
can,
to? Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so you can
we
privatize.
decided, that was another feature I did not show, but you can lock that down. You can fine tune the security of the platform to make the notes private. You can
Mhm.
actually require folks visiting the site to have an account. And then by virtue of their account, they only have access to certain features.
Hmm.
There
Oh,
are
okay.
different levels
Uh-huh.
of security.
I see.
Also on the website, on the public side of the website, if you were to look at the descendants of say Ebenezer, Clark, whatever, you would get all the generations up to my father, and then myself and my family and all the living cousins would not be displayed. It would be displayed as living. I think Ancestry does the same
Yeah.
thing.
That's right.
So there's no compromise as far as that.
Okay. Kim asked, do you have to know HTML to use TNG?
It's helpful. It's very helpful for customizing it. It's not required, but it's very helpful if you like to tweak the features. And HTML has become a lot more forgiving. I think it's a if you're thinking
Yeah.
of doing your own hosting, I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, I know that you can find easy, very simple guides online to the basic functions, the code that, paragraph, line breaks, references out, links are fairly standard. So probably that's kind of all you need, right? In a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's basically, I mean, on that home page, it's nothing very sophisticated as far as the
Yeah.
HTML. So it's pretty much 101. You're right.
Wayne asked, do you hand enter all the information or upload a GEDCOM?
Well, that's a good question. We started with a GEDCOM that had been generated in Family Roots back, oh my goodness, I think originally we started in the early 80s, hand entering the data from the record of the Hart family and some other, and then we found some online sources in the late 80s, early 90s, I guess, CompuServe and so on. I mean, we're talking ancient history as far as the internet. Once all that was in Family Roots, then we all had genealogical software which was allowed to import the GEDCOM. So no, I mean I had to get entered manually once, but since then it's all been electronic. Now I mean I'm doing a lot of the entry manually as I'm updating records, but initially it was all done with it electronically with the GEDCOM.
I have a question. Is there any functionality for DNA testing?
That's something I haven't explored. There is a DNA tab in the information section. There is a DNA. My sister did a DNA thing. I think it was 123andMe. She didn't do the ancestry. I forget. I'm not on Ancestry, so I'm not sure where they are with that.
Mhm.
But there is a DNA.
Okay, so it sounds,
Yeah. There is a way of advertising that. And I don't know. I'm one thing at a time here.
yeah, well, yeah, that's the best way. Yeah.
That would be a very interesting topic of conversation for the group. I think of the whole DNA.
Yeah.
Like, what sort of feedback have you gotten?
Yeah, we could draft Wayne for that maybe. Well, and then again, what's the cost? Is it an annual fee?
Yeah, I forgot to tell you the
Yeah.
cost. Yes, the sorted topic of coin.
Yeah.
So the software itself is about $35. So that's more than reasonable. Um, you wind up needing to host it, and I think I showed that simply hosting is $5 a month. So you're looking at an annual cost of $60 for hosting, maybe 60, call it 100 if you wanted extra space, maybe some different features. So the hosting would be $100 a month. The software is a one-time cost of about $35. And the support is pretty much free in terms of that user forum that I showed you, the TNG user forum.
Mhm.
And Darren is extremely good about returning emails.
Mhm.
I had a question about, like I had with a technical problem with the PHP, and he got right on it and sent me a link, and we did the update, and it went very well. So not terribly expensive. I pay, got about $120 a year for the hosting. I've got another website on there too, so I'm maybe paying a little bit more.
Uh-huh. So the hosting is separate from the actual TNG subscription.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're going to put it on the internet, it's got to be publicly available,
Yeah.
which requires a service hosting provider. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And it doesn't exist on your desktop at all. It's all in the cloud.
It's on the cloud. I used to run a parallel site locally so that I could test and say what would happen if I put this picture or change this color or try different templates, kind of a sandbox.
Yeah.
And then once I found something that I liked, then I knew that I could work on the live site.
Uh-huh.
It's just a lot easier. It's a little more peace of mind, but
Yeah.
I don't host anything on the internet here at home.
Yeah, I was just thinking if you could use like the free version of Roots Magic Essentials and download the GEDCOM from TNG and upload it there, or vice versa, you'd have a desktop software as well as the TNG. Not sure what the advantage is, but at least you'd have something on your desktop,
Well, that's true. No, that's true. And the internet, I mean, if you wanted to do some more work locally, and for whatever reason the internet wasn't working, you could still do that. You could still, work locally. There's no, also there's no, I just thought of this, there's no penalty for multiple installations. So in other words, Darren's would let me run a local version and the cloud version for the same cost. He's not going to ask me for an extra $35 if I want to run a local
Right.
version.
Okay. We had a couple more questions. Is the TNG backup only online, or can you also back up on your home computer? Well, that might be the.
That's a good point. Yeah, measure twice and cut once. Absolutely. So the backup that I demonstrated from TNG is online. So that backup is actually those tables are being saved in a folder on the Bluehost server. So it's still being backed up to a folder in the cloud. I would then have to use an FTP program to download that folder locally. So that if I wanted to say save all that information on a flash drive, I'd be required to actually transfer those files, copy the files off the Bluehost server onto the locally. So the backup is done online, to answer your question.
Okay. I think I think those are all the questions. Are there some final thoughts from people if they want to mention it? Otherwise, we'll go on to Wayne's program.
This was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really done very well. Thank you very much. Okay, Wayne, I'll just turn it over to you then.
Okay. Let me do the screen sharing thing here. Slides. Okay, so it sounds like everybody is at least somewhat familiar with the site Find a Grave. The most useful part to me is the memorials themselves, and hopefully somebody's also taken a picture of a gravestone so you can see the actual gravestone. There are other aspects of it. I'll talk to them a little bit, but primarily I'm looking at how to use it for genealogical purposes. So just to kind of go through some of the different ways, looking for the gravesite and hopefully a picture of the gravestone of ancestors. People are basically creating virtual memorials. So it does kind of raise a question in terms of what else gets posted on there. I have seen some people object. For example, I like to see like obituaries or if like death certificates and things like that. And I have seen some people who have objected to that because it's basically a memorial to one of their loved ones. I'm not sure how to resolve that, but it just, in a lot of cases, it's really helpful searching for things if people have added other information on there in addition to the gravestone. Photos are obviously very important, just to kind of verify what's there. A lot of these memorials have virtual flowers or notes about the person on the memorial. And you can search or browse through the cemeteries, and you can search or browse through grave records. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about, if you haven't already, to try to encourage people to you can create a free account and you can add things yourself on the website. The whole Find a Grave thing has been around for quite a while, and it really just depends on people willing to add information to it. So here's a screenshot of the opening page. In terms of searching, it generally less information is at least getting started. If you're searching for somebody, it's probably better not to try to fill in everything on there. I would suggest starting with a name, and if you know the date of death, to use that. If you're not sure of the spelling, you can, it does accept wildcards. So if you put a question mark in, it'll replace one letter in a name. If you use an asterisk, it can replace 0 to many letters. And there's also flexibility about searching for dates. If you're not sure of the exact date, you can put in a date and then also select and create a range of dates by using the year born and year died. If you want to go back to somebody, the quickest way to do it is to have the memorial ID number. If you just type that in, it'll take you right to the person. With that, here, I'm going to kind of run through a search where we had good luck finding some genealogical information. So in this case, just typing in a name and a year of death. If you pop open the little box there right next to the date, you can say, if you don't know the exact date, you can choose one of the items there, plus or minus a year or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. 25 is certainly getting kind of out of, not very useful as far as I can see, but you can have some flexibility there. In this case, there was only one result, and that's why I use this as an example, because I knew they would only get one result. And so then opening up that, you see a page about this William Bergeron. And on the plus side here, it's always nice to, when you find a person like a memorial like this, where it's got a picture of the gravestone and the people have added in other information that they know. And remember, these aren't necessarily the same person. The person that took the picture is not necessarily the person who created the memorial. The person who put in children might not be the same person that created the memorial. So it is kind of a really collaborative effort in working with this website. So in this case, we have a spouse and we have 2 children. There was no other information about William here because we were looking for his parents. But out of curiosity, we could take a look at his wife. And on her page, we can see that in addition, the gravestone itself only lists a year, but the person who put this in gave an exact date, but didn't have a date of death. But did know some other information about the family. Knew Genevieve's siblings, knew her parents, and of course we already had connected with her husband and her children. So again, these are all created by different people, and there's really not any other sources listed here. So what you're really working off of is the gravestone and trusting that the person who created the file knows about these relationships. If you were going to create your own, it would probably be good to try to verify it, to check some of these dates, to check and see if you could find, for example, a birth certificate on her, to see that the people listed are really her parents. But there is, if nothing else, there are a lot of hints here, and so this particular one, it's just really useful in terms of finding out more about a family. I'm just going to quickly kind of run through some of the other ones because this one does go back in time. So looking at her parents, the person has added some information about when they got married and listed all of the children that they knew, the person who created this knew about. And in addition to actually having the photo of the gravestone. Going back another generation, again, a similar thing where the person had some additional information they could add. There are no other, like I said, in my mind, it's helpful if somebody's doing some genealogical research, if they find other information, for example, a picture of an obituary or something like that. Those are always great to find. But in this case, we have a lot of the relationships about the family going back in time. Going back another generation. The photo here is kind of helpful because it does include a picture of the, not just of the gravestone, but how it sits next to other family members. In this case, I guess it's a husband and wife. And again, just if the dates are not on the stone itself, sometimes people do add, an actual birth date and place and so forth, which has been the case in much of this. In this case, if you'll notice, the information entered here is that the birth is unknown, but there is a specific death date, and we know that the person, and we have, again, the other family members, siblings, parents, spouse, and children. Focusing on in this one for just a minute, the person didn't have the birth date, but The gravestone itself indicates that the person was 68 years old. So we now have an approximate birth date of 1763. We know that there was a connection to Guilford, Vermont, since he was buried there. The Esquire, at least as far as I can tell, usually indicates the person was probably a lawyer. And the Revolutionary War plaque on the left side there next to the gravestone opens other possibilities for finding out more about this Cyrus Martin, except that in my mind, he was really quite young to be a Revolutionary War veteran. But there were, I mean, I have found other instances of basically of children who served in the Revolution. So that, you know, the plaque opens up other possibilities for finding out about him. For example, there might be there might be a pension file, for example, on Revolutionary War pension file. Or there should be, if he served, there should be some record of his service. Going back one more generation, in this case, we see that there's a connection, and this is a little tricky because this Bristol County, Massachusetts is right next to Rhode Island. So the person who created this memorial has also provided information that he found, or she found, on the this Rhode Island Society of Sons of the American Revolution. And down at the bottom, it indicates that the person served in 1776 in Bristol Harbor in Rhode Island. But again, the county in Massachusetts is right next door to the county and towns in Rhode Island. So in terms of looking for further records, you might have to check both. But anyway, it was just, I don't often find this long a stretch extending way back to Revolutionary War period. But for example, if somebody wanted to join the Lineage Society, you'd have to do some more work. They're a little bit stricter than they used to be, but this would give you a lot of hints about a path of, if you traced your ancestry back to this person, for example. You would have to do all the connections, birth, death, marriage records, to show that you are a descendant of this person. But with these gravestones and the other information here, it gives you a good head start. In terms of other ways of searching, I have sometimes just looked for people in a particular cemetery because I knew that they had a connection to the place. So in this case, you can search, instead of searching memorials, you search cemeteries. You can search if you know the cemetery name. You could obviously just type in the cemetery name. Or if you're wondering what other cemeteries are in this case, Greenfield, Massachusetts, then you can just type that one in. In this case, there's 12 cemeteries on Find a Grave in Greenfield. It tells you how big they are, how many memorials are in each one of these things on the website. And then you can search within just that cemetery. So in this example, if we go back to North Meadows Cemetery, you can either there's a search box there. You can put in the name of people that you might want to search. For example, putting in a last name, and or you can just browse underneath where it says memorials. So there are 355 memorials here. If you click that link, it'll give you a list of all of those memorials. So in this case, it's searching. The order usually comes up, as far as I know, the default is alphabetical, but you can change that order. There's a little pop-up menu there, so you could go by date, birth date or death date. And you could also choose the order, whether you want the oldest ones first or the newest ones first, and so on. So there's a lot of flexibility there in terms of just browsing through cemetery records. So searching in one cemetery. In this example, I tried to see if there were other Martins in that cemetery. So I typed in Martin as a last name. And as you can see down at the bottom there, it says no matches found. Well, I know this Genevieve Martin is there, but it's only searching on last names. So her last name was Bergeron, and her maiden name is Martin. So to fix that, you can again search on Martin, but click the little box that says maiden name. And there are other ways to limit this, but probably maiden name is probably the most useful. So and then once we've checked that box, then we can see we have seven people in that Find a Grave in that cemetery with a connection to this Martin family. And it might not be the same Martin. I mean, there's some of these other Martins you'd have to figure out whether, are they really related to this, to the Martin we've been looking at, or is it somebody else? But it does open, it's a useful tool to have, to be able to search maiden names as well as their the last name they had when they died. I don't use this a whole lot, but as Bill was just saying, you can find famous people, and you can use Find a Grave to search just for famous people. You can type in a name and see if they've designated it as if it's got that little star next to the name. And I'm not sure how Find a Grave determines just how famous the person needs to be. I mean, obviously some of these, George Washington is, I think most people would agree, is a famous person. So, so you can browse through this, or you can put a name in. You can also, if you want to see famous people in a particular place or in a particular category, you can also use that. So for example, you can choose browse by location. You start at the continent level, and then you can narrow it down by country, and in the US by state and so forth. So if you wanted to see famous people connected, buried in Vermont, you get 308 people listed as famous on this website. You can also browse by claim to fame. These are the categories, and just if you choose suffragists, you get 47 memorials, women who were not necessarily successful in their lifetime, but were successful in promoting the cause to give women the right to vote. And so you could find out, in fact, I think, I'm not clear on the entire history of Find a Grave, but I think they started with just looking for grave sites of famous people, and then gradually expanded it to just anybody. Which gets me to the next point, is that if you if you want to be able to add something to the site, you need to become a member. All you have to do basically is put in your name, your email address, create a password. And if you don't want your name to appear, then you need to put in a name that will appear on the website. And then choose if you want to just receive notifications about the memorials you manage. And if you'd like to be a photo volunteer, I did try that once, but then all of a sudden I was deluged with hundreds of requests for photos of grave sites. So I unchecked that box afterwards. I still do that to a certain degree, but I'm a little more careful about just volunteering like that. There are people, however, who have literally have thousands and thousands of memorials that they put on there and photos to go with them. So anyway, it's free to become a member, and it's really easy to add add memorials or add photos. These are the various ways that they are encouraging people to contribute. The big one, obviously, is to add a memorial. And then as connected with that is to also upload a photo of the gravestone. There are, and I don't know why people would upload a photo and not put anything about it, but evidently there are some, because that the little number 4 next to transcribing photos means that there are 4 photos where you could, transcribe what's on the gravestone. You can make requests, and there are requests listed with it just about every cemetery. And if you find things that you think are mistakes, you can also suggest edits so that the person who created it would have a chance to either accept or reject your edit. I, to be honest, have never tried to upload a spreadsheet, so I'm not really familiar with that part of it. Just to quickly look at adding a memorial, you need to add a memorial, you need to be at a particular cemetery. And so you, off the main page, you can type in the cemetery name, cemetery location, and then it opens up this box where you can add the information about the person who is buried in that particular cemetery. Again, a simple form where you add in whatever you know about the person. Obviously, the more information you have and the more accurate it is, the more useful it is on the website. The biographical information, if you know something about the person, that's basically just a text box. You can just type it in there. If you have information about where in the cemetery the person is buried, which is particularly useful if it's a huge cemetery. And there is a feature now where you can upload the coordinates of a gravestone. And you really can do that while you're in the cemetery. You can put, assuming your phone has GPS capabilities, and I guess most of them do these days. You literally can just set your phone on the gravestone and upload the coordinates. So it's, well, if you're on a cemetery, if you're on the page of the cemetery itself, it's actually a little easier to contribute to find a grave, because you could skip that first step where you have to type in the name of the cemetery and the place and so forth. If you're already on that cemetery, you still have all of the, it gives you all of the little links to contribute something to that cemetery. And basically all the same things were just on the other page there. And if you notice here, this is the, I live here in Rockingham, so this is the Rockingham Meeting House Cemetery, and there are 9 photo requests. I think that cemetery has probably been almost completely, well, as it says here, 90% photographed out of 1,146 memorials. So my guess is that the gravestone probably no longer exists for that particular one. But that in other cemeteries, particularly probably more recent cemeteries, you know, the photo requests are, it would be possible if you were already going to visit that you might find the gravestone of the people who are looking for a photo of their ancestor. Oh, okay. This is the photo request page. So in this case, it's not just that one cemetery. This is looking for, there are 96 photo requests for the cemeteries within 5 miles of my house. So if a person was motivated to do some of this, you know, there's a lot that are people that are looking for. If you'll notice down here at the bottom where it says at the Rockingham Meeting House, where it says problems in red, it just means the person who reported that meant they went out looking for the gravestone and they couldn't find it. Which again, I think because that's an old cemetery, probably the oldest one in town, the gravestones probably no longer exist. But anyway, it's, as I said, if you were motivated and if you were going to go visit a cemetery anyway, and you had some of these photo requests, it would certainly be a nice thing to do to just take some additional pictures in addition to the gravestone that you may have been looking for. So anyway, it's a quick little tour of going through Find a Grave. Is there, we have other questions?
We do. We have some questions in the chat. Barbara asks, how can we find contact information for people that added information like children, etc.?
Oh, yeah. Everybody that's a member, they're, I cut that part off, so I just thought it would display better on the screen. But at the bottom of every memorial, there's a contact of the person who created that memorial. So, and I have had people contact me. Well, particularly if they want to add something, you're in charge of the memorial. Any memorial that you create, you're in charge of it. So, and for example, I was in contact with somebody who set up a memorial on Find a Grave for my parents. And so I contacted them to see if they would transfer the management of their grave sites, you know, to me. And most people, I think, are willing to do it, especially if it's a close connection like that, if it's parents or grandparents, maybe. And especially if people have thousands and thousands of memorials that they put up there. I don't know how they manage them. I probably have probably over 100, but no, not. I've seen some with literally thousands. So, but yeah, so it's really easy to get in touch with the people who do that. Yeah, so there was a question here about editing too. So if you are the manager of a memorial, then and people want to suggest something to it, it will go to your email, you know, a link saying, you know, they would like to correct something or add something and so forth. And then generally you are the one that needs to approve it.
Would you like to see how that looks? I have about 10 of them.
Sure.
I can show
Wanna-
you what it looks like.
Would they edit? Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So under the suggested edited link, these are ones I've accepted. These are pending ones. So, Find a Grave has an app, and I think you mentioned it in your talk, Wayne, where the app will allow you to do this while you're walking through a graveyard.
Right.
And I take lots of walks by the Meeting House Hill Cemetery on Orchard Street in Brattleboro, which is, I think, the oldest cemetery in Brattleboro. That's where the center of Brattleboro used to be when it was founded in 1752, in that area there. At any rate, I search for interesting, gravestones I'll come by, and then I'll enter the information. Sometimes it will just be a birth and death dates, or just a death date. And so people have seen those, and they're suggesting edits to and there's some recent ones here. This was December 1st. So I can accept or decline them. And I usually accept them, but I do a little research as well to make sure that what they're suggesting is accurate. So that's one, that's what it looks like. And so you have pending, you can have accepted. These are the ones I've accepted. And if there are any declines, I think I made a declination on this one. I'm not sure why I did, but I had some reason to do it at any rate. And then your suggestions that you've sent, these are ones that were sent that were declined. And I've never gone back to see why. This one I'm a little interested in because it is my my maternal grandmother. So I'm not sure why the person declined it. I know there's some discrepancy in her birth record, but I had the evidence to show that. So
that's weird.
that's weird. Yeah. So
Especially when there's a close connection.
yeah, so I don't know what the reason, but they did decline it.
The question about I think how Find a Grave determines the percentage of photographed is that they have, I'm assuming there's the total number of memorials in that cemetery, and then there's a total number of memorials that have a photo connected to them. I don't think anybody, I suspect that's all done somehow internally, with it. I don't imagine somebody's actually going through there and counting. I think I think it probably just automatic. Somehow it calculates it. Just guessing on that, but I don't think there's any real manager of any of this stuff. The whole website was, the content of the website is all created by volunteers. And I'm not sure, it was a separate website and now is being supported by Ancestry. So, but it's still free to use.
Right.
So I think that's a plus.
Yeah, because if you search in Ancestry, you'll find a grave.
But yeah,
links out from the Ancestry.
So yeah, Ancestry's got all those connections to it.
Right. Do you use virtual cemeteries, Wayne?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, I find that very helpful. If you don't mind, I'll just show you. I'll share it with you because let's see. Okay, so you'll find it under the profile account, and then virtual cemeteries. So you could create any kind of virtual cemetery. I've created one for authors buried in Windham County, Vermont. I only have 6 so far, but you can just, when you come across one, click on it and it will then, be filed in your virtual cemetery, so you can go back to it very easily. But I don't know how many people know that Saul Bellow, the Nobel Prize winning author, is buried in Brattleboro. I bet
All
not
right.
that many people know that. So these are just a few of them. Robert Penn Moore, another famous person. So and then I've used it for my own family. So family in Sheridan, Wyoming. Here's some famous personalities in Brattleboro, and some other, some of the clients I work with, I have created virtual cemeteries, so I can go right to them as well. So that's really just kind of a cool way to keep track of those cemeteries as you go along. Let's see.
Yeah, it's a nice,
Yeah.
nice idea.
we have
I've
a-
been more focused on
Yeah.
trying to connect. Sometimes it's a little tricky to, because so many different people have created the gravestone. Sometimes it's tricky to connect them together so that you get basically a genealogy out of
Yeah,
it.
you get a
Similar to
genealogy.
the example that I showed at the start there.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
So the virtual cemetery would be a good way to keep track of that on your own.
Right.
On your own
Exactly.
account.
Your account. Let's see. There are a couple of more comments here. Let's see. Bill Clark says, "Adventures of Augie." He's referring to Saul Bellow. Let's see. Kim Kaiser, Esquire is a current term for attorney, but in the 1800s, it was also used as a term for gentleman. My third great grandfather was a rich farmer who used Esquire after his name. Oh, that's an interesting historical fact.
Yeah, I wondered about the Esquire thing, whether sometimes
Different times, different definitions.
historical, I suppose,
Right.
well, like the earlier times, maybe you would use that.
Yeah.
Again, with the example that I showed, I mean, in my mind, if the person was a lawyer, I suspect it might be, you might have, you might find other documents related to that.
Right. You could prove
Probate records or something,
city directory or something.
but if he was just a gentleman, I don't know.
So what about a person that's not buried in a cemetery?
Ah,
A cremated remains, and I've seen those. In fact, my
There are
brother-in-law, my brother-in-law was just that, and I did create a find a grave for him and mentioned where his remains were laid. So you can, even if you don't have a cemetery, you can still, create a memorial.
how did you go about doing that? You didn't have to connect it to
No,
can't connect it to a cemetery.
I just connected it to a place. I'm trying to remember how it actually worked. But then my sister-in-law then did create a memorial, physical memorial to him in a graveyard in their town. And then actually I came across that just accidentally by someone who had created a duplicate entry for him.
Yeah.
And so I asked for them to transfer their memorial to me so that I could merge the two and do it that way. But
Right.
there is a way to do it. I just don't remember how. Let's see if I can find it real quick, because obviously more people are doing that. They're
Well, there are also pets on Find a Grave too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So not
Yeah.
particularly helpful for genealogy, but
Right.
useful as a memorial.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's see. I might have just, I might, no, no. Yeah, I have to research it because all I'm coming up with is the physical one right now. But I mean, there is some controversy too. I don't know if you've read about that, Wayne, in terms of Find a Grave. Have you come across the controversies?
In what regard?
Well,
Yeah.
Judy Russell, who is, quite well-known genealogist, she's both an attorney and a genealogist. She operates a website called the Legal Genealogist, and she writes on many things, DNA, evidence, all sorts of stuff. But one thing she's been writing on in the last year or so is what she calls like virtual grave robbers. These are people who will read an obituary in a newspaper and use that to create the Find a Grave memorial before even perhaps the families had time to notify everybody of the person's death, even though, it appears as an obituary and maybe not all the family. She mentions one case where the soldier was in Afghanistan and it was like an aunt to that person. So at any rate, she feels at memorials, especially if they're not, you're not seeing the gravestone in the grave in the cemetery. There should be at least a 90-day moratorium on posting these records on Find the Grave. Because I was wondered, I come across these people who have like 10,000 memorials that they've entered. I mean, that's like spending your life going through graveyards. So perhaps they're doing that. They're just reading obituaries and adding memorials.
Huh. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that one so much. It's like
Yeah.
pretty
The other thing
early.
that I have questions about are copyright issues. If you're posting a obituary from a newspaper, are you violating the copyright by reposting that?
I don't. Yeah.
Right,
Maybe.
I mean, it's one of those things, one of those legal things. But I mean, if I do it, I usually would do like a link to a newspaper article or, something that maybe I don't have to, do it verbatim.
I have had the situation where some things that I have posted, especially because it is also indexed in Ancestry, I will find things that I've posted that other people have since also posted, which is always a little disconcerting when I'm looking for something and say, oh, I'm the one that originally did that, but
Right. Right.
somebody else will pick it up and post it as if it was something they did.
Right.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty open about, most of the stuff I posted, it's public.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be public anyway.
Right. You want people to find it.
It just feels weird sometimes when I'm searching for something and I realize that I'm the one who originally posted it there to start with. So
we have some comments and questions answered. So Kim Kaiser says, Find a Grave has a memorial option for not buried in a cemetery. Options are cremated, buried at sea, donated to science, lost at war, etc. So there we go. That's how I did it.
that's how you did it.
Thank you, Kim. And pretty soon, maybe they'll be launched into space. I don't know. Maybe they'll be. Then Jennifer says, one of the issues I've had, there's a photographer in the area. I have many relatives buried, and they choose to, quotes, edit memorial stones when they upload them. So I will sometimes have trouble getting additional information, spouses, etc., when I can't see the stone as it exists. Huh. Interesting. I don't know what you can do about that.
Yeah. It's certainly always better to put, to post more than one picture if you're going to do that.
Right.
In other words, I like to have a picture of the entire stone, but especially if there are multiple people on the stone, sometimes it's good to get a close-up.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the person you're looking for.
Especially when the stone is so weathered, you can't.
Yeah, especially if they're weathered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Jennifer also said, I asked for a picture of my great uncle's stone. As I saw they had cut off his wife's name, they asked me to confirm that his wife had passed as well. She had, though her name was pre-carved in the stone before her death.
Well, that's sort of the same issue you were just talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
The person's name might be on the stone, but
right.
There's, they might still be alive.
And Barbara Ryan asks, I post from obits, but I'm a year or so behind. Met woman who was very upset that husband's grave posted before funeral. I guess so. Okay, any more questions for Wayne? We can, otherwise we can move on to the general discussion and figure out when we're going to meet next time and any topics that people want to do. So just go ahead and if you want to throw out something for discussion, put it in the chat or just go ahead and unmute yourself and talk. If you have any general questions for the group or Wayne or me or.
Yes, we need to think about, we've been trying to meet every other month.
Yeah,
So we could aim to meet again in early beginning of February.
sure. I mean, seems like we've been picking the first Saturday, I guess. Does
Yeah,
that work out for everybody? We can at least set that up. That would be
what is it?
it would be February 6th. Saturday, February 6th.
Okay.
At 10 a.m. Do people have some ideas of what they like covered, or shall we just? Okay, I do have somebody posting here. John says, what other websites are useful for this kind of work? So that must be John referring to Find a Grave or for referring just to genealogy in general.
In general.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So something like I mean, what we've done, Ancestry,
Ancestry.
or
Famous Skin.
Family Search, that kind of thing.
Family Search. Is that the one? Is that one?
That's one. Yeah, that's the Church of Latter-day Saints. It's a free,
Oh, right.
free database. Find My Pass.
Uh-huh.
We covered some of those in the earlier sessions.
Okay.
I can give you a link, send you a link to the
That would be great.
videos, and that would do it. But we can also, revisit that because there are always, new ones and new ways of approaching it.
Yeah.
James Howard's asked, it would be helpful to hear ideas on how to approach a roadblock, common name, immigrating from a specific town in Ireland, but now the clue, when left, what port of entry, that type of thing. So that would be something we could attempt for the next time.
I missed last time's meeting because I had to go shopping. Your churches would be a good one. I don't know all what was about last time. I missed it, and I really hate that I did. But yeah, the churches would seem interesting to maybe find out how to get information through that way, or I don't know, maybe the town halls. I don't
know, Wayne,
Sure.
about church genealogical research.
Yeah. I don't know. Town halls would be another one, I guess, Wayne. I don't know. I never know I didn't know what you went through last time because I missed it, like I said. So.
Well, we could. I'll take some of these ideas down, and maybe we'll send out a little poll, and,
Yeah.
and then vote on them. We got two.
Well, for some of that, we, in terms of searching, trying to think of what's available online that we could do. Maybe something in Family Search, searching for church records.
Yeah, I think that would be the way to approach it. We could possibly go over that. And the one about figuring out similar names in terms of immigration. That might be something we could just do, just do a workshop on immigration records and how to find that type of thing. And there were some comments. Kim Kaiser said, my favorite free Irish website is irishgenealogy.ie. And I agree with her. That's a really great website. Be sure to check the 1900 census, since it gives the immigration year, and Family Search has good immigration records. And then Jennifer said, I'm curious about finding jail records from the early 1900s. I found a grandfather on the census in the Vermont House of Corrections in Rutland, but I can't figure out how to determine if that's the same person. Oh, that'd be a good one. Or any kind of record that has to do with an institution, you know, either a hospital or a mental institution. That we might be able to enlarge something like that. Hey, is Rachel still here? Rachel Onoff?
Yes, I am.
Oh, Rachel, do you know anything about you know, especially at the state archives, researching institutional records like correction records, or, you know, hospital records or anything like that?
Most of them are exempt, and I'd want to speak to my colleagues in the reference room before I tell you what is possible to ask for and what you can gain
Right.
access to, and whether you have to be
Right.
a direct descendant or not. And this is it's different from state to state, so
Right.
there's no one regulation that works across the country.
Right. So like I mean, they're embargoed maybe for 100 years or something like that.
Yeah, either that or if research can be done, it may be that some information has to be redacted.
I see. Right.
Or they need to be, you need to know that they've been dead for 75 years. So
Right.
there's different
different
rules.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
But we absolutely have a lot of those types of records at, for Brandon Training School and other places at the archives.
Right. Okay.
Some of that information was probably just published in the paper though, too.
Yeah. And
I mean,
if
if it was a
it's
court-
old, if it's old enough, exactly. Or again, the census census information might have recorded they were at an institution.
Yeah, from 1900, I would think
Yeah.
the Rutland Herald probably would have reported something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a really interesting topic, and that's, something we could maybe throw out there for a future one. Yeah. So
We would kind of do something else with DNA. I see a couple of people have mentioned that.
yeah, definitely. I'd lean on you for that for sure, because you did that week workshop with
Yeah, I wouldn't
Blaine,
mind
right?
on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
I'm kind of having fun right now with my heritage.
I know. I've been doing some, and actually there was a comment here about my heritage. Let's see. Let me go back in the comments. I might have missed it. Because my heritage, you can upload your DNA to my heritage and get matches that way, and they also have family trees there.
Yeah.
Someone did put something in about my heritage, but I'm not finding it. Does anybody want to step forward to say what comment they made? Oh, here it is. Oh, I'm sorry. It's yeah, this is important. I'll mention it. Barbara Larson from Fort Lauderdale. She is she's involved with the Genealogical Society of Broward County, and they're having a free webinar tomorrow presented by Daniel Horowitz, who is, I believe, the CEO of MyHeritage. Daniel will show us different options you have available today and the best practice for digitally collecting, storing, preserving, publishing, and sharing your research in an inexpensive way. And there'll be a Q&A session, and it's in the chat there, the link for the website, so you all have access to the chat. Be good to do that, to copy that down. Mary, go ahead. You have you want to say something, Mary Henderson?
Oh, that was an earlier one, I guess. I was
Oh.
going to say, I'm interested in exploring DNA testing, how to go about exploring the results. But since I didn't get recognized by my hand, I wrote it in the chat.
Oh,
So,
okay, sorry. I wasn't
yeah,
paying-
I have grandmothers on both sides where one was adopted, the other one never knew who her father was. And so I've done testing through Ancestry, but haven't so far until recently got a useful hint. And then when I contacted that person who did not have a tree, he didn't reply. So I'm just sort of thinking about the whole,
Yeah.
the sensitivity issues of this. And I have not, downloaded my actual results, and I don't know about the issues around that. So that's kind of the area that I'm interested in.
Okay. Well, I know we have several comments here about DNA going back into DNA. So maybe we should go ahead and make that one of our sessions. I mean, we could probably just do one whole session on DNA because spending 30 minutes on something like that is.
Yeah, I also know there was a presentation at the library at one point that I did attend, and was that recorded, and would I be able to look at that?
You mean the Rockingham Library?
The Brattleboro Library, somebody did a presentation on using DNA and genealogy.
Huh.
And I don't know if it was recorded or not.
Yeah. I've done some of that, but it's been more related to my family, and it was like, as an adjunct to another talk that I gave. But
Yeah, it was.
I mean, I
it
could.
was not you.
It wasn't
It was
me?
another.
Okay.
It was another presenter. You might have
Oh.
introduced that person, but it wasn't you that did it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll if it was recorded, be on BCTV perhaps. So we can check that.
Okay,
It
thank
wasn't.
you.
It wasn't recorded by me, but it might have been done, for BCTV.
Jerry, I think you put something on YouTube. I forgot the woman who did that.
Oh, right. Okay, it's coming back to me. Yeah,
But it was
Jennifer. Yeah.
It was a presentation that I think, well, you're the one that sent me the link,
Right.
but I don't know.
Yeah.
was on
No,
YouTube, but
it wasn't coming to me at first. It was, I think, 2017. Yes, it was.
That was a while back.
Right. We did a big one. Yeah, we were in the main room. Oh yeah. So we do have a link for that. I can send that out to everybody to look at. And we could perhaps work out something next time. And if people in the group here have been working with DNA, would like to maybe collaborate, I'd be happy to invite that for our next meeting. But yeah, I mean,
happy to have other people
right.
want to present something.
Yeah, maybe we could do that. Just get, and that might be a way of really, getting into the nitty gritty of what people actually need, rather than talking about stuff that might not be that relevant, to your. Kim says, I know a lot about DNA. I've taken 2 tests and uploaded the results to other websites for free, and also in DNA Painter. Well, that's pretty advanced stuff. That's what Wayne has done, and yeah, Kim, that would be great. We can discuss that at some point between now and our next meeting, and you could maybe perhaps talk about your experiences. I think that would be a good thing. And anybody else that might like to contribute. So okay, so it looks like our next meeting is going to be on February 6th at 10. You'll all get a notice sometime before that. I think we've decided that perhaps we'll spend it talking about DNA.
Mm.
And I'll talk with Kim, and when I send out the link for the video to everybody, please respond to that. And if you want to contribute to the DNA discussion on the 6th,
Okay,
works out for everybody.
thank you.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Anne. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All righty.
There
Any,
was
are there any other announcements? Anybody wants
another
to?
question there about newspapers.
Oh, yeah,
maybe just
sorry.
again, another reminder that
Yeah.
Vermonters can access Vermont newspapers,
Hmm.
and
That's right.
especially in reference to this one, that something in the Rutland area.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Rutland Herald is part of that newspapers.com that we can
Right.
access through the state archives.
And our video, we have a video on that on the website.
Oh, I did have a question. I have a question related to Bill's presentation when he mentioned a Tupper. Wasn't there a Tupper who was the town clerk in Brattleboro at one point?
Oh, Jetty, here was her name. Jetty,
Jesse or
Jetty.
Jesse or
Jetty.
Jetty?
Yeah, actually, I came across her tombstone at Meeting House Hill Cemetery the other day.
Oh,
I think you're right. I think it's Tupper, Jetty Tupper. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Well, okay, if there are no more questions or announcements, I'm done. So we'll maybe sign off. Hope everybody has a good holiday. Stay safe. Stay 6 feet apart and wear a mask.
Stay home.
Wash your hands.
I said it the right way, stay home.
Yeah, right, exactly. Home is safe usually. And I guess get your shovels ready because we'll have some snow today. Okay. All right, folks. Thanks for coming.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks,
Yeah.
Wayne.
For all
Yeah.
doing your work, all your work on your end to help us all do our work on our end.
That's okay. And thank you, Bill, and thank you, Wayne. Okay.
thank you too.
Yeah. Bye now.
Bye.
See you
Bye.
Tuesday, Rachel.
Bye.
Yep. See you Tuesday.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.